All right, 3 o'clock. What's up? Chad here. The Trailblazers took a loss in Houston last night. Rockets closed the game on a 15-4 run. 7-game road trip continues in Atlanta tomorrow against the Hawks. Blazers game day at 2. Tip-off at 4:30 here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. The Oregon State women will meet the 2-seed Notre Dame Friday in Albany at MVP Arena. Tip-off set for 11:30. Pregame at 11 right here on 620 Rip City Radio. From the NFL, the owners agreed to change the kickoff rules. Kickers will kick from the 35-yard line and aim for a landing zone, which is the goal line up to the 20-yard line. Only the kickers and returners can move until the ball hits the ground or a player inside the landing zone. Teams will now get a third challenge after one successful challenge. The league is prohibiting the hip drop tackle for players' safety, and there will be 2 games scheduled for Christmas Day. The Rip City Drive with Chad Doings coming up next. Steve Wiseman breaking down Sweet 16 at 3:20. And we have 2 pairs of tickets to give away on Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday. All right, Michael Shacker busting out the level 42. Nice work, my friend. I'm perfectly okay with that musical selection. All right, Dwight's still on vacation somewhere in the Amazon. Just picture that in your mind and see if you get yourself a little chuckle. I certainly do. We're going to talk brackets, Sweet 16 with Steve Wiseman of the Believe Podcast Network coming up in 20 minutes. And then Sean Hyken from the Rose Garden Report will talk Blazers at 4:20. And I do have a lot of football I want to get to today. And we will go through the Shohei Ohtani press conference. And I'll share the info that we got from Brandon Lang from the show on Friday. And you can decide for yourself what you believe in terms of what Ohtani is saying. So we'll get to that. A lot of rule changes in the NFL, and I do want to talk quarterbacks in the draft. Fascinated by the entire conversation around the quarterbacks, all the way from number 1 down to number 6. And Jim Harbaugh was really doing a perfect Jim Harbaugh talking about his former quarterback, J.J. McCarthy. This is the time of the year where you have to pay attention to what's being said, and you have to filter through all the smoke, because there's a lot of smoke right now with the draft coming up next month. But I like that too. And teams are desperate for a quarterback. The Broncos are desperate for a quarterback. Many of you are fans of teams that are desperate for a quarterback. So the quarterback conversation is dynamite. Also, the Oregon State women are going to continue their tournament run coming up on Friday. They'll take on the 2-seed Notre Dame in Albany. And that game will tip off at 11:30. It's going to be live here on 620 Rip City Radio with the pregame starting at 11. Ron Callen will have the call at 11:30. So if you're down with the women's hoops, we will have the game for you live prior to our Trailblazer broadcast on Friday with the pregame at 11, tip-off at 11:30. If you want to hit me up, you can do so. The telephone number here on this radio program is 503-248-0620, 503-248-0620. You can also find me on X at Chad in Rip City. This is a crazy week. Right now, we're going through a month where we've got people in, we've got people out, we've got people on vacation. The schedule is crazy. I'll be hosting Rip City Mornings tomorrow morning from 6 until 9, assuming I wake up and find my way to the station at such an ungodly hour. Horrible. But here's what happened. And if you want to know how to make amends with me, Justin Myers has laid the groundwork as a perfect example. If you offend me, if you do something that has upset me, or if you put me in a bind, there's a perfect way to make amends. And I'm not easy to offend at all. Not easily offended. Don't really get too irritated too much. There are little things in life that bother me. Like I get more frustrated over people that back into a parking spot or slight technical glitches on the radio or bad cell phone connections. It's not the big things in life that bother me. It's the little things. In fact, I hate being me sometimes because I can't get over the little things and it prevents me from getting stuff done. It's like a disease. Anyways, Justin Myers booked a vacation without checking to see if there was availability on the schedule. So he called me up, I don't know, about a month ago, 5 weeks ago. He's like, hey, I need to give you some dates for vacation time. I'm like, okay, what are those dates? And he said, these are the dates. I'm like, yeah, I don't think that's going to work. And he's like, what do you mean? I said, well, we don't have the availability to cover you during that time because it's a busy month. And he's like, well, I already booked the trip. and we're going out of the country or overseas. I don't know where they're going. And I was like, well, that's a problem. So I was like, well, we'll just figure out a way to get it done. Well, he felt bad and he called and apologized. And then when I came in the studio today, not one, not two, not even three, but how about 4 boxes of coffee for my Nespresso machine? I don't know what crema scura is, but I'm all about it. Dark, luscious crema. Thank you, Justin. I appreciate that. So if you ever offend me, put me in a bind, want me to work a double, just bring me delicious coffee and we're good. So have fun, Justin. Enjoy your vacation and thank you for the coffee. The best way to Chad's heart is with delicious coffee, period. I'm not hard to please. I know what I am at 48 years old. Just get me some delicious coffee. And when I don't have to spend more money on coffee, I consider that a big-time victory. All right, let's talk about the NFL rule changes that are going down. And then coming up at 3:20, we'll talk Sweet 16 with Steve Wiseman from the Believe Podcast Network. So the least impactful rule changes, we'll start with those first. The coaches will be awarded a third challenge now if they get one successful challenge. Before, they had to get 2 successful challenges if they were going to be awarded a third challenge. I like that move by the NFL because it gives more ammunition for coaches to combat potentially bad calls. And I think that's important. We don't want bad calls to determine games. And coaches, although some of them are not very good at throwing the flag or knowing when to challenge or how to figure that out, at least now if they get one right, they'll get a third challenge automatically. The hip drop tackle is now out of the game in the name of player safety. The NFL acknowledges the new swivel hip drop tackle ban rule is not going to be easy to determine on the field, but they want it out because injury rate is 20 times. It occurs once a game, but is increasing in frequency, results in high ankle sprains and fractures. Replay assistant will be able to help officials even more this season on clear and obvious plays that can be quickly adjudicated, but the hip drop penalty is not reviewable. So I think what's going to happen with the hip drop tackle, there's not going to be a flag for it, but players will get fined. And then as they get fined, they're hoping to clear out some of that mess from the game in order of player safety. Now, the downside is you can't hit a player high and you can't do the hip drop tackle technique anymore. How in the world are you supposed to tackle? And it reminds me of Mike Mitchell a few years ago going off on the whole rules in the NFL. I think it's very pliable today. Take a listen to Mike Mitchell. Because if you're a defender in the NFL, you're like, what the flip is going on? How am I supposed to do my job?
For me to hit you right now before I hit you. And that's crazy. I'm going to mess around and get hurt trying to protect an offensive player because he's running an over route. Your quarterback shouldn't have threw that ball messed up. That happened 2 years ago. I'm not joking at all. Andy Dalton threw a ball to Tyler Eifert 2 years ago. Tyler Eifert had to dive for it. I was aiming for his gut. But if he don't dive, he don't get in the head. That's 50 grand out of my pocket, though, because Andy throws a bad ball. Make that make sense. And at first you're taking our money, but now, I got like Matt Hasselbeck calling me a dirty player and trying my character, and we've never met before. Full speed contact.
That's a perfect description from a defensive player. It's terrific. So I understand why the defenders are upset. They are gearing the game towards offense, making it harder on defense. And, of course, if you're a defender out there flying around at full speed, how are you supposed to think at full speed and make sure that you get it right every single time? It sucks. And that means money's going to be flying out of your pocket. And even when you try to do the right thing and the wrong thing happens, you do get some of these buffoons that call you a dirty player. All right, the kickoff rule. I think this could be good or it could be really bad. So during the 2024 upcoming season, kickers will continue to kick from the 35-yard line, but the other 10 players on the kickoff team will line up at the receiving team's 40-yard line. At least 9 members of the return team will line up in what they're calling a setup zone between the 35 and the 30-yard lines. Up to 2 returners can line up in a landing zone between the goal line and the 20-yard line. No one other than the kicker and the returners can move until the ball hits the ground or hits a player inside the landing zone. Touchbacks will be marked at the 30-yard line, and no fair catches will be allowed. In the event a team wants to attempt an onside kick, it'll have to inform the officials of its intent and would then be allowed to use the NFL's traditional formation. No surprise onside kicks are going to be allowed. All right. They're obviously trying to get the kickoff back. I think there was 1,970 touchbacks last year. At that rate, when you have touchbacks essentially 90% of the time, why even have a kickoff? Here's Albert Breer on Fox Sports Radio explaining the new rule.
So 29 yeses, 3 no's. The no's were, God, it's San Francisco, Green Bay, and Vegas were the 3 no's. And, I think this is sort of the outgrowth of a couple of things, Dan. The first is, obviously the touchback rule last year, for the most part, eliminated the kickoff. And it had flipped where it had in the past been 80% return, 20% touchback. It had gone to 80%, about 80% touchback last year. And so they wanted to find a way, the special teams coaches did, to help put it back in the game. And so over the last 2 years, they've worked on it and crafted the idea of creating something that would put more returns in the game and maybe bringing to life the next Devin Hester, the next Dante Hall. And so it's a modification of the XFL rule. The idea overarching is to take speed and space out of the play to slow down the collisions. And they think this addresses the injury issue that the touchback rule addressed last year and will add returns back into football. I mean, the idea is, and their belief is, this is going to add about 500 plays, 500 competitive plays to the game next year, which I think is a win for everybody, even if it is going to look a little weird and different. So it's interesting the way the rule sets up. So if you have what's called the landing zone from the goal line to the 20. If you kick it into the landing zone and it bounces and it's not fielded and it goes into the end zone, it's a touchback that goes to the 20. If the kicker kicks it into the end zone, the ball comes all the way out to the 35.
Okay.
If you land short of the landing zone, then and it bounces before it bounces before it gets to the 20, then the ball comes all the way out to the 40. So essentially you're penalizing the kicker for not putting it in that landing zone inside the 20 but short of the goal line. And you're penalizing the return team if the ball lands in the landing zone and then bounces into the end zone.
All right, so kind of messy. A lot of stuff going on there with the new kickoff change. They're going to give it a year and see how it goes, and then see if any tweaks can be done to make it even better. But at least we're going to get the return back in the game. So I don't know where I come out on this. I got to see it before I know. Now, we have seen it in the XFL. In fact, if you want an example of what this could bring to the game, in the 2023 USFL kickoff, in the 2023 USFL season, kickoff return leaders with a minimum of 20 returns, Derek Dillon, 32.7, Terry Wright, 31, Josh Simmons, 30.8, Dion Kane, 29, and Elijah Stove, 25.9. Dillon is formerly of Giants camp, Wright with the Dolphins, Kane played with the Colts and Steelers. So we'll see. But this could add more excitement. We'll see how messy it is, if it makes sense. It's going to be weird when you have to go out and tell the official, like, yeah, we're going to kick an onside. So the team will know what's coming. But they basically did before anyways. All right, so we'll keep things rolling here on the show. We'll come back, and it's time to talk Sweet 16. Steve Wiseman, he joined us last week, did a heck of a job. He's going to come back and talk Sweet 16 as we get ready for action in the NCAA tournament. Chad Doing here. We got 2 pairs of tickets to give away for the Trailblazers and Pelicans. We'll do that at 4 and 5. I've got Lainey Wilson tickets. She's going to be in concert up at the RVN Style Resorts Amphitheater. We'll give away a pair at 3:45 and 4:45. You got the Rip City Drive. All right, the Sweet 16 will kick off on Thursday. The first game just after 4 o'clock in the West. The 2 seed Arizona will take on the 6 seed Clemson. And joining us once again to break down the tournament from the Believe Podcast Network, and he hosts Believe in Duke, Steve Wiseman is back. Steve, it's great to have you back on the show. I enjoyed the conversation last week. Through the first 2 rounds, what was the biggest surprise to you?
Well, I have to stay close to home. I work here in Raleigh, so NC State getting past those two. They got a little bracket luck when Oakland's taken out Kentucky and Yale winning also were the 2 bigger surprises, I guess. But overall, NC State getting through to the Sweet 16. A team that lost 7 out of the last 9 games of the regular season. The coach was in trouble, and they win 5 in a row to win the ACC. Now they're winning streak 7, and they're in the Sweet 16. Going to play Marquette down in Dallas, and we keep thinking they're going to run out of steam, but they keep finding more steam. So have to give them credit for that.
Yeah, and you talked about some of their potential when they played well earlier in the season. They've been fun to watch. Marquette is favored by 6.5. How do the Wolfpack match up against Marquette in your mind?
Yeah, I mean NC State has a pretty good height advantage because you got Mo Diarra, a 6'10" guy at a 4 that could shoot, just step out and shoot threes, and then you got the big guy in the middle with DJ Burns, and then Ben Middlebrooks off the bench, who's a transfer from Clemson, has turned out to be a really good player here in the postseason. He's been able to play 20, 25 minutes a game so that DJ Burns, and you've all seen how big DJ Burns is, doesn't have to play that as many minutes because he can't. That's not something he's able to do. He can't play 30 or 35 minutes, so they need almost 2 centers to kind of rotate there. And Middlebrooks has really been a key player there, so that gives them a lot of strength inside to get higher percentage shots. So I like what their chances are there. I mean, Marquette's a great team, and they did really well in the Big East this year, so I think they got a lot of good things going for them too. But that's the advantage that State has. They can match up pretty well on the inside and get more higher percentage shots that way.
Hey, Steve, are you going to be in Dallas this weekend?
Yeah, I'm heading out there in the morning.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, Steve Wiseman, Believe Podcast Network here on the Rip City Drive. How about this one in the East? You get a rematch of last year's title game, UConn and San Diego State. And, man, UConn looks really good, although you wouldn't know it if you're listening to Coach Hurley. What's your take on what you see there in that rematch?
He's got high standards, doesn't he? I guess that's what makes him a great coach. I was in Brooklyn because that's where Duke was, and so I saw 2 UConn games, which were just, they are just a machine right now. And I know he's doing his best. Dan Hurley is trying to keep them on their edge, and they've got it. It's working really well. And we all thought they would obviously handle their first game with ease, and then against Wagner, and then Northwestern coming out of the Big Ten. We wondered, if Northwestern could stay close to them, but the general feeling was among the press corps that were watching, getting ready for that game, was that UConn was going to handle them pretty easy, and then they went out and did it. So, obviously I'm high on them right now. They're still close to home in Boston, which is about the same distance from Stores as New York City is. So they'll have a lot of fans in Boston. They have a lot of fans in Brooklyn. Same thing. They will have the home advantage there against San Diego State in a rematch. That's neat that they're playing again after playing in the title game last year. But it's going to be hard for me to pick against UConn against just about anybody in this tournament now after what I saw last weekend.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, you had some concern about Duke going into the tournament because you weren't really sure which Duke team you were going to get. What did you think about their 2 wins over James Madison and Vermont?
Yeah, they proved that they could find that gear. And, I thought that James Madison was going to beat Wisconsin, and, of course, they did. And James Madison was a team that in that Wisconsin game came out and really attacked Wisconsin early and took them off their game. I think they had a 15-4 lead. They were forcing turnovers like crazy and really got after Wisconsin. And that's the kind of team that Duke's had a little bit of trouble with this year at times. They were able to beat Baylor, again, I mentioned that last time, in December in that type of game. So Duke had it in them, but they hadn't always shown they could do that. And so when they came out and Jared McCain made his first three-pointer of that game, and Duke's going through the first 10 minutes without committing a turnover. So I knew, okay, they found it. They said they were going to do this. They said they wanted to come out and kind of punch James Madison in the mouth and set them back on their heels, and that's what they did. So, again, give them credit for backing up their words. That's what they told us, the media corps on Saturday, the day before the game, that's what they planned to do, and they came out and did it. So that, kind of renews my faith in them a little bit, that they have that in them, and it's here now because they lost to NC State in the ACC tournament and Carolina in the regular season finale. And so I wondered if they could regain that, but they certainly did last weekend in Brooklyn.
How do you think Duke matches up with Houston? The Cougars right now are a 4.5-point favorite. That game will be in Dallas, where you will be. What do you think about the game?
Yeah, I was just, I'm looking at Houston there, kind of doing a scouting report on them, and they are experienced. They're tough-minded. Sheed and Cryer, two seniors. Jawan Roberts, a senior. So, I mean, this is a quality team that expects to win, and they're the best defensive team in the country. All the metrics, Ken Pom, points per game, field goal percentage defense. They're number one in everything. And so again, this is the type of team that's going to try to take Duke off its game and try to force whoever's going to impose their will. And Houston's done that a lot this year. And so it's just another one of those kind of man-up battles that Duke's going to have to face. And Duke's been a very good defensive team too, so you might take the under in this game because I think this is going to be a game maybe it'll be decided in the 60s. I think it'll be tough for any team to get to 70 in this game, so that might be the factor that gets somebody over the top. But I like Duke is not as old as Houston, but they have shown this toughness at times. They showed it last weekend, so if they can do that again, this will be quite a battle.
Yeah, and their point guard Jamal Sheed, I've watched him play this year. The team seems to be very reliant upon him in terms of directing the offense and spearheading the defense. And Coach Sampson's done a good job of getting him to buy into what they're trying to accomplish. But that's a tough basketball player right there. Strong.
It is, and I want to see if they, who they put him on. If he's on McCain, if he's on Proctor. Those are, and Roach Duke has three really good guards. So I want to see which one she guards because he makes a lot of steals, and then on the other hand, he's pretty good with dishing the ball and playmaking and setting up other his teammates for points too. So he's a strong guy on both ends. So yes, that'll be one of the battles I'll be watching is how Duke handles Sheed, how Sheed handles Duke.
We're talking with Steve Wiseman, Believe Podcast Network, taking a look at the Sweet 16. This year, few believed in Gonzaga, and boom, they're back in the Sweet 16 with Coach Few. Now they're going to face Zach Edey and Purdue, the one seed in the Midwest. What do you think?
Yeah, again, I was one that they didn't think Gonzaga would make it this far. I said last week I didn't know if they'd get out of the first weekend, and they did it. So, congrats to them. They're doing what people thought, what they're used to doing, right?
Yeah.
They're back to Gonzaga again here down the stretch. They caught Kansas at a good time. I mean, Kansas was banged up, right? But they took care of that business. They handled the business against McNeese, which again I thought maybe would give them a tougher game. And then they went out and blew out undermanned Kansas team. So now Purdue's a different animal. Purdue has been blowing people out too. They look like they're on the collision course to maybe face UConn coming down the road here with the championship on the line. So I like Purdue's overall game. Edey is a matchup nightmare in the middle, and then but they shoot the ball well too. So. They're not just. I think last year they relied too much on. They didn't have the shooting on the outside that they do this year. So, it's going to be hard for me again, like I said with UConn, to pick against Purdue. But Gonzaga threw me along last weekend. So go out and do it again, Zach. It's all on you.
All right, Steve. I got two more questions. In the West, you got Alabama and North Carolina. The Tide have looked pretty good, but I'm just wondering, is this going to be a high-scoring game? Do the Tide have enough defense to be able to compete in this one?
Yeah, that is going to be the problem because Carolina gets the ball up the court quickly, even after getting up a made basket. I've seen many times this year when they get the ball out, and they've scored on the other end within 5 or 6 seconds of them giving up the score. That's so demoralizing to a team that you're facing because they think we got points, we're going to get a stop here, and oh no, they've already got a layup behind us. So that's something that teams that don't play Carolina a lot have to watch out for, and we've seen that in the first two rounds here. And then also the way against Michigan State last Sunday, or it was Saturday when Carolina played Michigan State down in Charlotte. Michigan State was up 12 points in the first half, and in the blink of an eye, that deficit was gone, and Carolina was on their way to a double-digit win. Carolina has a gear they can get to. It's not always there, but when they get to it, they're as good as anybody in the country. And Alabama's going to have a hard time against that, I think. Down in L.A.
All right, Steve, you're familiar with the ACC, of course. What type of challenge will Clemson present to Arizona?
Yeah, I mean, I really like I've liked Clemson's team all year. P.J. Hall is an NBA guy in the middle. He's tough. He can step out and hit three. He's tough down low. Clemson's guards with Chase Hunter and Joe Girard. I wondered how they do in the NCAA tournament because they didn't have the experience, but they have proven to be up to the task. They're both veteran guards, handle the ball well, can shoot, play tough defense. And then Ian Shefflin is the guy that people forget about. He was the most improved player in the ACC this year. He's just kind of in hockey they say guys go to the dirty areas to get points and stuff like that. That's what Shefflin is in basketball. He gets the tough rebounds. He plays good defense. He may not, every once in a while he'll pop up and score 10, 12 points, but it's that other stuff he does that makes them tough. Now, Caleb Love is familiar with playing Clemson and their style of defense. And Clemson has faced him a lot too. So people always have a good plan against Caleb Love, but then he shoots a couple 3-pointers over top of your defense, and you wonder what the heck happened. So I expect a really tough game there. I'm going to favor Arizona, but Clemson surprised me by getting through the first weekend with their lack of experience. So, but now they're facing a tougher team, and that'll be a great game in LA.
All right, Steve Wiseman, Believe Podcast Network, Believe in Duke. This guy knows his tournament stuff. Hey, Steve. Have a great time down in Dallas, man. That's going to be a blast for you to go check out the Sweet 16. It should be a good scene down there.
Absolutely, man. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, that's awesome. Steve Wiseman here talking tournament. Sweet 16 will kick off on Thursday. We'll have games on Thursday and Friday, and then we'll move into the Elite Eight, which is going to be great. So you got to love it, man. I love this time of year with the tournament. It's terrific. All right, telephone number 503-248-0620. You can hit me up on X at Chad in Rip City. So if you look at the games, they're going to be coming up on Thursday and Friday. He thinks Clemson's going to present a very good matchup for Arizona. He likes UConn. They're the most dominant team in the tournament right now. North Carolina should be able to outscore and run and gun and do whatever they want against Alabama. And then Illinois and Iowa State. Like, that is a grinded out physical type basketball game. On Friday, Marquette has the matchup advantage against NC State, but the Wolfpack are on fire. Purdue should advance and top Gonzaga, and Zach Edey's a problem to deal with. Duke and Houston is going to be a terrific basketball game, and then you've got Creighton and Tennessee. So there you go. We'll see how things continue to shake out. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the women's basketball too. The women have a lot of stars in this year's tournament, and I had a chance to watch Iowa last night, and they were getting the benefit of the doubt with the whistle. There's no question about it. No question about it. If you take on Iowa, just be prepared to deal with the officiating. It doesn't matter whether it's the NCAA tournament, the women's game, the NBA. Star treatment is star treatment. That's how it works in sports. All right, I got this question from Miranda, who has chimed in. Dear Skunk Vomit, good afternoon, Mr. Doing. When projecting success for the upcoming draft prospects, which of the quarterbacks from the traditional Big Ten rivals will have a better NFL career? Nix from the University of Oregon or Penix from the University of Washington? What is the probability that either of those quarterbacks will end up on your beloved Broncos? Well, I have been told from my sourcing in the Denver area, and that's one place where I'm fairly well plugged in, and I've got a couple of good friends who work for iHeart in Denver. Benjamin Albright, NFL insider, one of those. You know, he's always thought with the quarterbacks in the draft this year that Bo Nix is a prototype for Sean Payton. So if they go quarterback, I think Bo Nix, of the two, between he and Penix, Bo Nix would be the best fit and the most likely of the two to wind up in Denver. Now, there's also talk that the Broncos could be looking to move up, although they don't have the assets for it. And depending on where J.J. McCarthy falls, they might look to try and move up. My guess is the Broncos are going to try and move up. They'll do everything they can to move up to get McCarthy, but they're not going to have the resources. And so what I think they'll do is trade back from 12 back in the draft to collect assets. And then if Bo Nix is available, maybe in the second round, if they can pick up a second round pick, then that's the more likely place. It's unlikely that Bo Nix would be selected in the first round. Neither he or Penix are looked at as day one quarterbacks, but a lot of that stuff goes out the window because NFL teams are crazy about their quarterbacks. And if you get a team that believes in a guy, then you'll reach on a quarterback. Absolutely. I don't think the Broncos are going to reach for Bo Nix. So, no, I don't expect Denver to draft him at 12. I would prefer that they don't draft him at 12. And if they have an opportunity to move up and get Jaden Daniels or J.J. McCarthy, I guess I'm okay with that. But I just don't see how they're going to be able to pull that off with the lack of draft capital that they currently have. Now, with Michael Penix, I think Bo Nix will have the better NFL career. One, the injury history for Penix is concerning, but I like Bo Nix and his game better in terms of processing and being able to deliver the football on time and on target. Penix is a unique player, a terrific deep ball thrower. I do question whether or not he can layer throws over the top of the linebacker in front of the safety. Most of his throws in the college game with Washington came outside the numbers. I just don't know how that's going to translate. And for me, I prefer quarterbacks that have the ability to maneuver a little bit, to be able to run and take off when the play breaks down. That's not Michael Penix. The advantage for Penix is he's very good at using his feet to slide and move in the pocket, but I don't know. He's got a weird delivery of the football coming out of the left hand. It's good, but the injury history, I think Penix is probably a second or third round quarterback. I think Nix is a second round quarterback. Could go in the first round, but I doubt it. So we'll see how things shake out. The weird thing about these quarterbacks in the draft is that I think what we're learning now, and there are rumors that J.J. McCarthy could go number 2 to Washington now. What this tells me is Caleb Williams is a surefire stud in the draft class, and it's almost like the rest of these teams are guessing on the other guys. Like, I know what the scouts think about J.J. McCarthy, and I know what I have heard from the insiders that I know and what teams think about J.J. McCarthy in terms of his, processing, his ability to deliver the football on third down, using the middle of the field, and coming out of a pro-style offense in Michigan. But the problem is, and maybe you can relate to this, I never saw him in his entire college career and watched him and thought, man, that guy is unbelievable. That doesn't mean he can't do it or be that guy, but I never had a moment where I was like, man, J.J. McCarthy is the best player on the field. I had that experience with Caleb Williams basically every time he stepped on the football field. So I don't know. Yeah, it's strange. And the numbers that some of these other guys put up against weaker competition in these college offenses, how much can you put into that? So I don't know. Maybe these teams don't really know. I think everyone knows Caleb Williams is the best, and after that, it's kind of a guessing game. Yeah, it could be Jaden Daniels, although he's a little bit lanky. Not really sure about Drake May. Maybe it's J.J. McCarthy. He only threw for 22 touchdowns last year. I don't know. It's mind-boggling. I mean, these teams have proven year after year they have no exact formula for figuring this out. So someone's going to screw up. All right, we'll come back, and we got a pair of tickets for – so if I were going to choose, I would go Bo Nix over Michael Penix. And I think Penix long-term will have a better, more fruitful NFL career than Penix. All right, Lainey Wilson tickets, I'll give those away next. She's going to be up at the RV and Style Resorts Amphitheater. We have Trailblazer tickets to give away at 4 and 5 here on the Rip City Drive. All right, Lainey Wilson is going to be at the RVN Star Resorts Amphitheater Saturday night, September 28th. So if you'd like a pair of tickets for the show, go ahead and call now. We'll take the first caller through at 503-248-0620. 503-248-0620. Fire away with your calls right now. If you want to see Lainey Wilson live in concert in September at the RVN Star Resorts Amphitheater, call now, 503-248-0620. First caller through gets a pair of tickets for Lainey Wilson at the RVN Star Resorts Amphitheater, 503-248-0620. And if you don't get a pair of tickets now, we're going to give away another pair for her concert at 4:45. And we have a pair of tickets for the Trailblazers. We'll give away a pair for the Pelicans game at 4 and 5 o'clock today. All right, let's go out to the phones. Sean and Sandy wants to talk. A little concerned because he's been grumpy lately. So we're going to go out to Sean and see what he has to say. Hey, Sean, good afternoon. I appreciate the phone call. What's up?
Hey, brother Chad. Hey, I want to touch base on Bo Nix.
Yes.
You know, a lot of people have been down on him, and you know what I like about Bo Nix is like Bo Nix is a guy that wasn't afraid to go into the transfer portal. Bo Nix is already a guy that went into another locker room from where he was at and improved himself and showed himself and controlled the locker room. And I like guys like that. And I think that Bo Nix is not going to be selected in the second round. And I want to also touch on Shohei Ohtani.
Well, hold on, Sean. Hold on. Before you move on to Shohei Ohtani, you said that people are down on Bo Nix. How so? How are people down on Bo Nix?
Well, I hear, it's kind of like a diverse group. I hear some people think, Bo Nix is really good. But then I hear Bo Nix is not so good. And he's going to drop to the second round.
Well, let me ask you a question.
He's a tweener. I'm going to say he's a tweener on one of those quarterbacks in the draft.
Well, Sean, let me ask you a question. Right now, you've got the top 3 or 4, which are Caleb Williams, Drake May, J.J. McCarthy, and Jaden Daniels. Would you place Bo Nix ahead of any of those 4 quarterbacks?
Possibly not.
Okay.
And it just depends on how much, I haven't done a lot of research on those guys.
Well, I know, but what I'm saying is that there is a clear definition if you hear the scouts and the different people that cover the draft and who scout players, that you have the number 1 quarterback in Caleb Williams. Then you have that next group of guys, which are Jaden Daniels, Drake May, and J.J. McCarthy in some order. And the next group after that is Bo Nix and Michael Penix. So I think people look at Bo Nix as exactly the guy who he is. No one is going to take him in the top 5. He might get taken in the first round, but most people have a second-round grade on Bo Nix.
I understand that. And I'm just a type of person that I like people with a chip on their shoulder. I like people that have made changes, improved themselves.
Yeah.
And I've done that a lot in my work life.
Well, I
I'm
understand.
not a guy that
Would you take him in round 1? Do you think he's going to be a round 1 quarterback?
I do. I've told you that. And I really put money on it. I told you, let's bet on it.
Well, I don't know if he's going to be a first-round quarterback or not. What I've said is he doesn't have a first-round grade, but teams often will reach for quarterbacks and take a guy in the first round if they like him and they're not sure he's going to be available in later rounds. They will reach on a quarterback. Teams do it all the time.
You sent me a text telling me he's going to be a second-round draft pick.
I do. I think he's going to be a second-round quarterback, but in the NFL draft,
Put
teams
the money
reach.
where your mouth is.
Well, let's wager on it then. Let's wager. I don't think he's going to be a first-round quarterback. I don't. You're right. I do not believe Nix will be taken in the first round unless a team reaches on Bo Nix, but no one has a first-round grade on Bo Nix.
And last year when I talked to you, you thought that the Denver Broncos were going to have a better record than the Seattle Seahawks.
I did.
And that didn't work out either.
You're right. So do you want to sit here and pinpoint all of the different things that I've been wrong about? Is that what you want to do?
No. I see. I'm a guy that I don't need to have a take on everything like you do. I just have a take on certain things when I have a feel about it, and I've done some research on it.
Sean, I don't have a take on everything. If I have a take on something that I believe in, I share it. And if I'm wrong, I'll willingly admit it. You know who else I was wrong about? Chet Holmgren. I thought Chet Holmgren was going to be another bust for a white American-born big man in the NBA, and so far he's been dynamite. I was wrong about Chet Holmgren. Why don't you find something else? I'm sure there's something else I was wrong about. Why don't you bring that up too?
I think in general, you and other sports people have to have a more takes than we do. You have a lot of takes, you guys, and you have to.
It's
have
my
your
job.
opinion.
I go on air every day. I have to have opinions on things. That's what I do for a living.
I feel sorry for you, brother. It's a tough gig.
Well, yeah, because I've got you sending me texts all day long telling me when I'm wrong. Look, it's my job. My job is to come on and share my thoughts on a variety of different topics. And I tell you exactly what I think. So here's what I can promise you, Sean. Even though you get grumpy and send me a variety of different texts every day about how you don't like Michael Shacker, you don't like my take about Bo Nix, how I was wrong about the Broncos last year. Look, here's what I'm going to do every day. I'm going to be honest. I'll tell you what I think about everything. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And if I'm right, I'm right. But no one gets it right 100% of the time. Do I think Bo Nix is a top 5 quarterback in this year's draft? No. Do I think he's likely going to go in the second round? Yes. The only thing I'm certain of in the draft is that Caleb Williams is the best quarterback. My thought after that is I have no idea. There are things I like about Jaden Daniels. There are things I like about Drake May. I have no idea about J.J. McCarthy. I never saw him have to be the man in college, but the scouts love him. He might go number 2. I have no idea after Caleb Williams. So do I want my team to reach on a quarterback in the first round at 12 when he might be available in the second round or the third round? No. So there you go. But I'm going to come on every day and tell you what I think. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm right, I'm right. So be it. I can't be right 100% of the time. If I were right 100% of the time, I would not have had a gambling problem. I would have been rich. All right. If there's something else I was wrong about that you would like to bring to my attention, 503-248-0620. And we got a pair of tickets for the Trailblazers and Pelicans. They're coming to town in April. You can see Zion, CJ. We'll give away a pair of tickets coming up next and at 5 o'clock. 503-248-0620. We'll talk hoop with Sean Highkin at 420. iHeartRadio honors and celebrates the women who changed music forever throughout Women's History Month. Search Women's History Month on the free iHeartRadio app and dive into Women's History Month radio and curated playlists featuring powerful women's voices from the 1950s to now. All right, the Trailblazers took a loss in Houston last night. The 7-game road trip continues in Atlanta tomorrow against the Hawks. Blazers game day at 2, tip-off at 4:30 here in your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. The Oregon State women are going to meet number 2 seed Notre Dame Friday in Albany at MVP Arena. Tip-off is at 11:30, pregame at 11 here in your home of the Beavs, 620 Rip City Radio. From the NFL, the owners agreed to change the kickoff rules. Kickers will still kick from their own 35 and will aim for the landing zone from the goal line up to the 20. Only the kickers and returners can move until the ball hits the ground or a player inside the landing zone. Teams will now get a third challenge after one successful challenge. The league is prohibiting the hip drop tackle for player safety, and there will be 2 games scheduled for Christmas Day. We're going to talk basketball with Sean Hiking coming up at 4:20. It's a Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday. We have a pair to give away next for the Pelicans on April 9th. All right, every Tuesday here on the Rip City Drive is Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday. For all of your Trailblazer ticket needs, simply go over to trailblazers.com. So a big thanks to the Trailblazers for supporting us, where we can give tickets away every Tuesday for you to chance to check out the Trailblazers in action. 2 pairs today for the Blazers and Pelicans. We'll give away a pair here in a few minutes. The game's going to be on April 9th, and we'll do another pair that we'll give away at 5 o'clock. That song that was just playing, Don't Disturb This Groove from the System, it's one of my favorite slow jams from the 80s. Great song. Curtis Long and I were talking, the principal, at the game the other night. I've never been a lyrics guy when it comes to music because, honestly, most of the time when I'm listening to a song, I have no idea what they're saying. Like, sometimes I do, but most of the time I'm not really sure what the words are. I don't understand it. And then I'll go and look up the lyrics. I'm like, wait, what? That's what they're saying? And so I think it's pretty funny because certain songs, you see the title and you listen to it. I'm more of a sound guy. Does it sound good? Do I like the music? It just makes my ear work, right? It just works with my ear. I don't care about the lyrics. I'm not a lyric guy. Like, I don't hear a song and think, wow, that song and the words really move me. I just don't. It's not me. But if I like the sound of it, that's usually what connects me to the song. But it's pretty funny when you start to look at the lyrics. Like, I had never done this with Don't Disturb This Groove. But you start to read the lyrics. It's like, wait, what's that song about? Pay attention. Are you listening? Excuse me for the moment. I'm in another world. By a fountain, flowers blooming everywhere. With Venus and Cupid, the picture's very clear. Erotic whispers for the listener. Let the music fill the air. Excuse me for a moment. I'm at a loss for words. By election, sure perfection. And as if these eyes would care, your heart is in the right place. So don't you go and change. Baby, over and over, the passion starts again. You're my lollipops and everything, and a little taste of sin, causing fire and desire. All right, I think I know what that song's about. But until I looked up the lyrics, I was just like, oh, are they talking about a dance? They don't want the music to stop? And then you hear the song and you take a look at the lyrics, you're like, oh, I think I know what they're talking about there. That's pretty bizarre. All right. Trailblazer tickets here in just a moment, but I do want to talk about the quarterbacks for a moment. Sean and Sandy called in and was asking about the quarterbacks. I honestly don't think that anyone has a real idea of what's going to happen.
All of a sudden, you're seeing your opponent.
I just don't think they know. I think everyone knows that Caleb Williams is the best quarterback in the draft, or he's considered the best quarterback in the draft. I think people know that, but outside of that, I don't think people really know in terms of what's going to happen, what's not going to happen, who's the best after Caleb Williams. And that's what's really bizarre. If you take a look at the way things are going down now, there are reports that maybe potentially that J.J. McCarthy could go number 2 to the Commanders. And I'm thinking, wait, what? How did that happen? No one was talking about J.J. McCarthy throughout the course of the season being a top 5 quarterback in the NFL draft. So what changed? So here's what I know about J.J. McCarthy. I know that the scouts love the way that he processes at the line of scrimmage. He came out of a pro-style offense at Michigan. He had to get the players in the right position. He had to call the right protections, make sure that everything was in the right place. And in terms of being able to drop back and play from under center, he can do that. He's very good on third down. He can throw over the middle of the field and obviously be on time and on target, which is the most important thing as an NFL quarterback. But I never saw him do it in college where you looked at the game and thought, okay, he's the one. He's carrying the team because their defense was elite, offensive line was terrific, and they had a great run game. And their coach, Jim Harbaugh, wanted to maul you to death with size and physicality. So it just never jumped out at me when I watched J.J. McCarthy play. It doesn't mean he won't be a great pro or a franchise quarterback, but I never thought that about him. That's why it's so weird to hear how he might go number 2 and how he's just skyrocketing up in the NFL draft. But take a listen to Jim Harbaugh, because this is where the noise gets a little bit ridiculous when it comes to quarterbacking. But take a listen to Harbaugh and what he had to say about his pro day, talking about his former Michigan quarterback, J.J. McCarthy. Ah, goodness gracious. Every time I want something to work, it won't work. It's very annoying. Very annoying. Let's try this again here. Oh, well. We'll have to wait on the audio. Let's give away a pair of tickets right now. Trailblazers and Pelicans coming up on April 9th. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. We'll take caller 10 right now. If you want a pair of tickets for the Pelicans and Trailblazers, call now, caller 10, 503-248-0620. 503-248-0620. Call now, and you'll get a pair of tickets for the Trailblazers and Pelicans coming to Motor Center on April 9th. C.J. McCollum, Zion Williamson, your Trailblazers, 503-248-0620. Call now, 503-248-0620. And if you don't get through and win the tickets now, you will have an opportunity coming up at 5 o'clock because we have another pair of tickets. 503-248-0620. 503-248-0620. That is your number. So call now. All right, let's see if I can get this to work here. You would think, how long have I been in radio? Like 30 years? Okay. Jim Harbaugh talking about JJ.
The workout JJ had, I've been to a lot of pro day workouts and watched quarterbacks throw. That was the best I've ever seen a quarterback do at a pro day. I mean, there was raving. And it was great to hear, incredible to hear. I know it was sincere. It was unsolicited. But I mean, there's numerous GMs, numerous head coaches, couldn't say enough good things. And it was, I mean, you could just see it, right? I mean, his pro day, that's literally, I've never seen a better one.
All right, there's Jim Harbaugh. All right, so why is he talking about J.J. McCarthy like he's Joe Montana or Tom Brady or John Elway? Jim Harbaugh just said that it's the best pro day that he's ever seen. I mean, really? Really? Is that the best pro day you've ever seen, Jim? You've been around the game for a long time. You've been around some great quarterbacks, but J.J. McCarthy, your former quarterback at Michigan's the best pro day you've ever seen? Look, I don't doubt that he loves J.J. McCarthy, and I don't doubt that he thinks J.J. McCarthy can get the job done and be a good NFL quarterback, but why is he going over the top to say that? Well, if you just look at the NFL draft order, Carolina made that deal with Chicago. The Panthers were the worst team in the NFL. Now Chicago gets that pick at number 1. They're going to take Caleb Williams. Washington's at number 2. They're going to take a quarterback. It could be Jaden Daniels. It could be Drake May, or it could be J.J. McCarthy. New England's at number 3. They will probably take a quarterback, although, based on everything I've heard, they have an understanding that their roster's a disaster, lacking in talent, and they need help everywhere. So they could possibly trade out of 3, collect more draft compensation, and have more picks to be able to continue to retool their roster. That is a possibility. Arizona at number 4. They do not need a quarterback. They've got Kyler Murray, and they would be open for business. They are looking for teams to trade up to number 4. Also, the Chargers sit at number 5. The Chargers have Justin Herbert. They're not looking for a quarterback. They also want to get as many draft picks as possible so they can go out and draft bigger, stronger players at the line of scrimmage. That's how Jim Harbaugh works. He wants a sturdy line of scrimmage on both sides. He wants to be able to run the football. He wants to maul you. He wants to be physical. That's the way he operates. But they don't need a quarterback because they have one of the best in the game in Justin Herbert. So he's trying to offer up the idea of moving up. I think the Chargers would love to trade out of number 5 and be able to collect more draft pieces to be able to continue to retool their roster in the image of what Jim Harbaugh's looking for. So that's why Harbaugh's going out and saying ridiculous things like this.
The workout JJ had, I've been to a lot of pro day workouts and watched quarterbacks throw. That was the best I've ever seen a quarterback do at a pro day. I mean, there was raving. And it was great to hear, incredible to hear. I know it was sincere. It was unsolicited. But I mean, there's numerous GMs, numerous head coaches, couldn't say enough good things. And it was, I mean, you could just see it, right? I mean, his pro day, that's literally, I've never seen a better one.
All right, so Jim Harbaugh is trying to drive up interest in where the Chargers sit at 5 because I think they would trade out if the opportunity presented itself. So here's how I think this is going to go down. I think 4 quarterbacks will go in the top 6. That's a combination of Caleb Williams, who will go 1. Then you have your next 3 guys, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, and J.J. McCarthy in some order. Those 4 quarterbacks will go in the top 6. The question is, of the teams looking for quarterbacks, Minnesota, who went out and got an extra first-round pick from Houston, and right now Minnesota sits at number 11. You've got Denver sitting at number 12, and then potentially the Raiders at 13. So Minnesota, Denver, and Las Vegas at 11, 12, and 13. Those are teams looking to move up. The question is, will 3 quarterbacks go in the top 3? And how much is Minnesota willing to give up to be able to move up to get their quarterback? Will they go all the way to 3 with New England? Or will New England elect to take a quarterback at 3? And if that happens, then you're going to have that 4th guy, whether it be McCarthy or Jaden Daniels or Drake May available, and that's where these teams are going to try and move up. Minnesota, Denver, maybe Las Vegas. The question is, who will it be and which spot will it be? But even the Giants at 6, the Giants could take a quarterback maybe, but they could also move out and look to collect more picks to be able to add to their roster. So you'll get 4 quarterbacks in the top 6, and someone's going to trade up with either Arizona, the Chargers, or the Giants. Possibly 3 at New England, you could make a trade up, but I think New England's going to elect to take a quarterback when push comes to shove. The question is who? And Will Washington, who's got Cliff Kingsbury running the air raid as their quarterback and offensive coordinator, quarterback coach and offensive coordinator, who does he want and who does he think is the best fit to be able to run his offense? Is it McCarthy? I would think Jaden Daniels, based on that offense, would be the best fit, or Drake May. So there you go. I think quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3, and the 4th quarterback will go 4, 5, or 6, depending on which team moves up to secure their guy. But I think Arizona has made it clear they're open for business, and Jim Harbaugh, with his just nonsense about J.J. McCarthy, is making it clear that he's trying to drive up interest in the quarterback so teams will be desperate to move up, and maybe the Chargers can get more draft assets and move back. All right, we'll come back and talk some Blazers. Sean Hyken of the Rose Garden Report is going to join me here on the Rip City Drive. Welcome to the iHeart Spotlight, the go-to place in the iHeart app that keeps you up to date with the latest music, podcasts, and more. Just open the iHeart app and explore a collection of content you can't get anywhere else, like new music for you or the exclusive NFL podcast slate, all within the free iHeart Radio app. Listen now. All right, joining us once again from the Rose Garden Report. He's on X at Heiken. Sean Heiken is back. Sean, it's great to have you on the show and talk a little basketball as we near the end of the season. Let's go ahead and start with the injuries. What's the latest that you're hearing on Anthony Simons and Jeremy Grant and when they may be back on the floor?
Well, Simons is already ruled out for tomorrow. I don't think that injury is anything serious or long term or anything to worry about, and I don't think he's been officially ruled out for the season. But that out of the ones that are out there, that are currently on the report, that's the one that I think maybe just kind of looking at things, logically with like they want to get Scoot a little bit more time, fully running the show offensively, that might be the one where maybe you don't see Anthony Simons again this season. I don't think that's definite, but out of the ones that are kind of in play, that's the one that I would maybe say might be going that way. Jeremy Grant, from what I understand, and also this is also true of DeAndre Ayton and Malcolm Brogdon, actually, they would like for all three of those guys to play again at some point this season. DeAndre Ayton was listed as questionable for the game tomorrow in Atlanta, so I mean, there's a chance he goes there. But they would like their guys to go if they are able to go.
Well, you
even
mentioned
though the season is obviously what it is.
Yeah, you mentioned Malcolm Brogdon. He's been ramping up for a return. Let me ask you this: in what ways does it benefit the Blazers to have Brogdon back on the floor before the end of the season?
Well, think about it this way. If, as most people expect, they probably going into, I think a lot of people thought they were going to trade him at the deadline. They did not. Going into this summer, he's going to have 1 year left on his contract. So you would think, unless they plan on extending him, which wouldn't make a whole lot of sense for where they are in their rebuild, they have to either move him this summer or at the deadline next year. So if that's something you're thinking about doing, wouldn't it make sense for you to have him play a couple games to show other teams that this elbow injury, which, by the way, he actually is dealing with an elbow injury. They're not just holding him out in order to tank. He had a PRP injection in his elbow about a month ago. It's a real injury. It's a real thing that takes some time to recover from. So, if he's able to go, wouldn't it make sense if you're thinking about maybe doing something with him from a trade standpoint this summer to have him back out there to show teams that everything's all good there and that they don't have anything to worry about if they trade for him? I think that would kind of be the logic there.
All right, Shaden Sharp has been assigned to the Rip City Remix for conditioning. When is the soonest that we would see him back on the floor, do you think?
I don't know. I don't think, and this is the question that I've gotten a lot since this got announced a couple days ago about him going to the Remix. Obviously, nothing is 100% out of the question, but I think it's very unlikely that he plays actually for the Remix in one of their two games this weekend at Childs. This is kind of a similar thing to back in November when Scoot Henderson missed a couple of weeks with the ankle injury, and then before they brought him back, they had him go to the Remix and they assigned him to the Remix, which you have to announce because league policy is that when you're assigning one of your players to the G League or recalling them, you have to actually announce it and, file the paperwork with the league office, which is why they announced it in the first place. But my understanding is that right now the plan is just because so look, they're to the point with Shaden and that, they said he'd be reevaluated in 6 weeks. We're a little over 6 weeks now. They clearly feel that he's progressing, to the point where they want to let him, do a little bit more and see how much he can handle physically and, ramping up and going through a full practice. They're clearly to that point. The Blazers are on this 7-game road trip right now, and if you look at the schedule, it's not like there's going to be a whole lot of practice time. Like the way that this road trip is set up, there's usually, for the most part, there's a game, and then there's a travel day, and then there's a game, and then there's a travel day, and then there's a game, and then there's a travel day. It's not like they're going to be able to get a lot of practices in, or there's going to be a lot of chances for him to, on that road trip, to, go through a full practice and see where he's at physically. So they figured that rather than have him just be flying with the team just to sit on the bench for games that he's not going to be playing in anyway, if the G League team is going to be home all week and they're going to be going through practices, if you leave him home for a week, you can actually have him get some real practices in at their practice facility with a coaching staff on the Remix that is very closely tied in with the Blazers, own coaching staff and, the medical staff. Like everybody's kind of on the same page with that stuff. So, we'll see how he responds this coming week to the whatever he does in practice and how that goes. My guess if you want me to handicap kind of when I think, if assuming there's no setbacks, assuming everybody involved decides that, he's good to play before the season ends, I would probably say he doesn't go at all on this road trip that they're on. I think if this stuff goes well, he'll probably fly to, whether it's like Orlando or Boston or, wherever he ends up meeting them on the road trip to be with them on the end of the road trip. But I think the earliest we could probably realistically expect to see him back out there is the last 4 games of the season, which when they come back from the road trip, they have games that second week of April at home against New Orleans, Golden State, and Houston, and then they have the season finale that Sunday in Sacramento. So those last 4 games after they get back from the road trip, if everything goes okay, I think there's a reasonable chance we could maybe see him back out there for those games.
We're talking with Sean Highkin of the Rose Garden Report. I love that crazy stat that was put out before the Denver game that was only the second time in history where a team has started 5 rookies in a game since they started tracking starters back in 70-71. You pointed out that it was the Warriors in 2012, the first team to do it. They've had back-to-back games where all 5 rookies started and played. What did you make of the young guys and how they performed for Coach Billups?
You have to be a little bit encouraged by what you saw from a lot. I mean, Toumani Camara has been pretty much in the rotation and in the starting lineup for a lot of the season, so you're not really surprised by him playing well. And Chris Murray has also come on a lot in the last half of the season. So those two and Duop Reese, I think, you kind of know what those guys are, and so it's not really surprising how they look. Scoot Henderson, I think, still kind of up and down, still kind of uneven, but, certainly a better last couple of games for him than what had been happening the last couple of weeks with him since he came back from that groin injury a couple weeks before that. So, you're sort of encouraged there, but I guess the real wild card here, the one that I think a lot of people were intrigued by just because he hadn't gotten to play that much throughout this season. He's been playing a lot with the remix, but he hasn't really played much with the big club, is Rayon Rupert, who was their second-round pick last June. And, he's still very raw, but, there were certainly some moments. I think the second game he looked a lot more in control, especially on the defensive end. There were a couple of bad misses that he had, a couple of bad, defensive reads that he made, but I think that's another situation where I think they felt good about it. They at this point in the season giving him those reps, and they felt like he was more ready for it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was impressed with what I saw. I expected a lot worse, and they were functional. And even Coach Billups talked about how they did a better job of being able to adjust without him making all the adjustments for them as the game went along against Denver, which is nice. Now, with Scoot Henderson, is the team confident that with his work ethic and his response to coaching, that with the offseason and the work that he'll put in, that he can make a big jump from year 1 to year 2?
I think this is going to be a huge offseason for him, and I think it's going to be good for him to have a normal offseason where you have to remember last year, he goes right from going through the pre-draft process to as soon as he gets drafted by Portland, then suddenly Damian Lillard requests a trade, and then, he's kind of in the middle of that whole situation, even though it really doesn't have anything to do with him personally. And then, he goes to Summer League, and he has a shoulder injury in the first half of the first game of Summer League, doesn't play the rest of the way. And then, he goes into, his first NBA season, and he gets kind of, schooled in his first game ever against the Clippers. And then it's all kind of up and down from there. He's had the injuries to deal with. I think it's going to be good for him to just now go into an off season thinking, okay, I know, what an NBA season is like now. I don't know if he's going to play again at Summer League. I don't think it would be the worst idea in the world if he wanted to. I don't think the organization would be against it if he decided he wanted to. And knowing him, I think he'll probably want to, even if it's just for a couple of games, just to show that he doesn't need it and that he's above it at this point. But so that's going to be interesting. And if he can just get through a whole off season of, not having a setback like that shoulder injury, and then having a whole summer to just kind of, now he knows what goes into an NBA season and the physicality and the, rigors of the 82 game schedule and all that, then I think there's a, certainly the organization. I think the sentiment that I've gotten from, people in the organization on Scoot is that I don't know if they expected it to be this rough, but I think they were kind of realistic about the fact that 19-year-old point guards are basically never good right away, except for like Kyrie Irving and Derrick Rose, and that's like basically it. You look at, De'Aaron Fox really struggled his rookie season, Darius Garland. You can name so many guys that ended up being all-stars later on, and so I think if he's still playing at the level he's playing at right now, a year from now, then I think people are going to start to worry. But I do think, and to your point, Chad, what you said about what we know about his work ethic and the way that he approaches these things, I think everybody involved feels pretty good about that. What has happened this season is not just, automatically, this is just what he is as an NBA player.
Hey, Sean, how does it work with a team? Scoot, I think his workout guy, I think his coach might be his dad. I'm assuming that in their exit interviews, the team will go to the player and have different things that they want them to work on and communicate that to the player. And then what do? They can take that information and then work with their own team. How does that process work out or play out?
I mean, I think all that kind of varies, player to player, team to team. There are some guys that work with different, different. There were certain, trainers like, Damian Lillard's guy was Phil Beckner, who also worked with Anthony Simons and Mikal Bridges and other guys. Like everybody kind of has their own process. And from what I've heard, I think the Blazers organization's attitude is, who guys work with in the off season isn't really their business or their jurisdiction. And so I don't think they would step in and say, "Oh, I don't think it's good that your dad is working out, is your trainer in the off." I don't think that's something that they would do unless there was a clear problem with something. But I don't know. That's going to be something that I'll be kind of interested to see how this summer goes for Scoot on a lot of levels.
Yeah, because I'm not concerned about Scoot yet, based on everything that you just said. But if we're at this point next year and the same issues, and we haven't seen that jump, I mean, there would be major concern at that point, right?
I would say so. Yeah, I think people expected a lot of growing pains and struggles for a player as young as him trying to learn this position. But yeah, if it's still like this near the end of his second season, then yeah, I think at that point there would be some reason to worry about it. But we're a long ways away from that.
All right, Sean, I'm enjoying this talk. I've got two more questions for you. For those who don't understand, can you explain the Warriors pick and what they should be rooting for as Blazer fans as the season continues to play out?
So the Blazers have the Warriors' first-round pick this year, unless the Warriors move up. If the Warriors miss the playoffs, then they'll be in the lottery, and it'll be kind of the back end of the lottery. So they might have maybe a 4. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but maybe a 4 or 5% chance, something like that, of moving into the top 4. If the Warriors move into the top 4, then they keep their pick. And then the Blazers would get their pick next year unless it's number 1 overall. It's top 1 protected next year. And then if somehow that were to happen and then the Warriors were to win the lottery next year, then it becomes totally unprotected in 26. But the most likely scenario is that the Warriors finish with, whether they finish in the play-in or, slightly out of the playoffs, somewhere around the 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th pick, somewhere in there. The most likely scenario is that Portland is going to get the Warriors pick this year in addition to their own. So there's a chance they have 2 lottery picks. Now, if you want that pick to be as high as possible, you need to root for the Warriors to lose as many games as they can going forward the rest of the way, and the Houston Rockets, who just beat the Blazers last night and actually play the Blazers one more time later on in the season. You want to see them win because right now they are only a half a game behind Golden State for the for the 10th play-in spot, which it would be easier for Blazer fans if Golden State was just out of the play-in entirely, and you didn't have to worry about they might make the playoffs if they can get through the play-in, but then if they get to the play-in, you kind of you would root for whoever whether it's the Lakers or Sacramento or whoever they end up playing, Dallas, whoever, in the 9-10 play-in game, which I think is kind of their ceiling at this point. So. I would say the easiest thing right now is you root for Warriors losses and Rockets wins in order for that pick to be maximized.
All right, Sean, final question. Aside from Malcolm Brogdon, do you anticipate any major roster changes during the course of the offseason?
I think just number-wise and math-wise, there kind of have to be some changes. I think you're looking at a roster that is still pretty expensive right now, and they're not close to being a playoff team. I think Brogdon is the most obvious guy that would have to be moved. But, when you look at kind of the salaries and also the amount of draft picks they could potentially have this summer, they're certainly they can't go back into next season with a similar roster to this one. I'll just say that there's a lot of moving parts there, but there are gonna have to be some things that changed over the summer.
All right. You can check him out at the Rose Garden Report. He is on X at Hyken and does a terrific job of covering the team. Sean, enjoy your day, buddy. I appreciate the time, and we'll talk soon.
Always good to talk to you, Chad.
There you go. Sean Hyken. Big fan of his and the work that he does. And there you go. Yeah, from what I was told, I was talking with someone at the game Saturday when Denver was in town. You know, with Scoot Henderson, I agree with Sean. This is a huge offseason for Scoot because this season has been underwhelming, to put it best, to the point where I would have to think, like any of us, that the team has to be a little bit concerned from the slow start to how difficult the adjustment to the NBA game was for him. And now he's going to have a full season under his belt. He's going to have to really put in a lot of work and then do whatever is necessary to make that big jump from year one to year two. It's critical for his career and for the Portland Trailblazers. They need him to work out, right? So I do know that, his dad is his workout guy, his trainer, the guy that works with him the most on his game. I just hope he's the right guy. I don't know. But if you're Scoot Henderson and you're at this crossroads where you need a big offseason to make sure you make that big jump, do not spare any expense to make sure you have the best team around you to help you get to the level that you need to be. And then from my understanding how it works, like the team will communicate like different things they want the guy to work on. Then it's up to him to go out there in the offseason to make it happen. But for Scoot Henderson, year one, okay, you got it under the belt. Now you got to make a big jump. You were in the number 3 pick in the draft last year. They need him to cash. He's got to take that big step. All right. Rip City Drive. Yeah, you ever been like in the middle of your day and then you realize you did something that might be potentially dumb? Like I went to get my golf clubs gripped yesterday, and I took my bag in because I was getting all of my clubs regripped, and I think I left my bag inside the store. And that gives me great anxiety. I hope someone just set that aside, knowing I'm going to go back and pick up the clubs. Oh, my gosh. I got too much going on. I hate forgetting things, but that's going to drive me crazy until I know. Dang it. How can you do that to yourself, moron? All right, we'll keep things rolling. We got another pair of tickets for Lainey Wilson. We'll give those away coming up next. And then Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday continues at 5 with another pair for the Blazers and Pelicans. Big thanks to Sean Hyken, Rose Garden Report. You got the Rip City Drive. iHeartRadio honors and celebrates the women who changed music forever throughout Women's History Month. Search Women's History Month on the free iHeartRadio app and dive into Women's History Month radio and curated playlists featuring powerful women's voices from the 1950s to now. Yeah, Sean and Sandy called in earlier to remind me of all the different things I've been wrong about, which I appreciate, of course. Travis in Boring reached out and said, Chad, wrong about Russ last year also. Just trying to help. I think Travis is a Raider fan, so I don't really care what he says about football because Raider fans have been wrong about their team for like 30 years plus. But was I wrong about Russ? I don't remember exactly what I said. I think I said that he would have a bounce back year similar to what we saw when he was in Seattle, and the Broncos would reach the playoffs as a wild card. Now, they missed the playoffs. They came darn close. They were like a game or two away from that. They had that awful Christmas Eve loss to New England, which put a stake to my heart. But in terms of Russ, he threw for fewer yards than I thought. He just over 3,000, almost 3,100 yards, but 26 touchdowns, which was among the best in the NFL, only 8 interceptions, and completed 67% of his passes. So he did have a bounce back year. The problem is it was a bad fit between him and Sean Payton. But it doesn't matter what happened last year. The truth is the trade, the acquisition, the whole Russ experience was a complete disaster. Just a total disaster. And now the fallout is taking place. You lose players, you lose draft compensation, and now when you're in a position where you need a quarterback, you don't have the assets to move up and grab your quarterback. So, yeah, it doesn't matter what he did last year. Although I wasn't completely off with the way he played, the entire experience sucked. And it ended in the exact opposite fashion that I thought it was going to end. But I like Russ, and I think Pittsburgh's a good landing spot for him. And I hope it works out for him. I really do. In fact, let's take a listen to Mike Tomlin. And here's him talking about Russell Wilson.
We're not resistant to competition, but as I've mentioned several times of late, I just think it's appropriate to establish positioning as we get into this thing. And the term that I've used is Russell has pole position. And why do I use that term? Because during this time where we're not formally working, man, I just think is beneficial. His experience in the National Football League, his process that's been honed and perfected, talking about over a 12-month calendar, is not only good for him, it's good for teams. It's good for receivers, tight ends, running backs, etc. All the things that people that are really committed to winning do this time of year. Russell has those resources, man, that structure, and so that's why I say he has pole position, man. It just creates a synergy that I think is good for this time of year. When it's time to compete, we get in training camp-like settings and going to preseason stadiums and so forth. Obviously, Justin will be given an opportunity to show his capabilities.
All right, there is Mike Tomlin, like him. So we'll see how it works out with Russ. Oh, also, Duke, the UPS driver, he chimed in. Draft the stash, baby. Sorry, dude, I had to. Now, let the record reflect that while I was a fan of Adam Morrison, Draft the Stash and that entire campaign was not me. That was my former partner, Gavin Dawson. Gavin Dawson is the man behind Draft the Stash. Now, I did like Adam Morrison, but that was Gavin Dawson. And I'm not trying to point the finger at Gavin Dawson. I'm just saying that was Gavin Dawson. And he did that extremely well. So thank you, Duke. I appreciate that.
Hi, this is Bill Shanley. If you're trying to get a hold of Duke, one of the best UPS guys around, he's not available right now, but he'll get back to you just as soon as he possibly can. Rip City.
Duke also has a Bill Shanley voicemail. How cool is that? Rest in peace, Bill Shanley, the mayor of Rip City. All right, we have Lainey Wilson tickets to give away. Why don't we do that right now? She's going to be up at the RVN Style Resorts Amphitheater on September 28th. So if you'd like a pair of tickets, we'll take caller 3 right now. 503-248-0620. Call now, Lainey Wilson. 503-248-0620. So if you'd like to see Lainey Wilson in concert, fire away with your phone calls right now. 503-248-0620. 503-248-0620. That is the telephone number. Now, going back to Scoot Henderson for just a moment. And we got Trailblazer tickets we'll give away coming up here at 5 o'clock. Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday Pelicans, Trailblazers coming up in April, one of their final home games, which will be a part of Fan Appreciation Week over at Moda Center. 503-248-0620 for your Laney Wilson tickets right now. Another pair of Trailblazer tickets coming up at 5 o'clock. With Scoot Henderson, look, I'm no different than any of you fans out there. I was frightened when I saw the way his season began. Got off to a slow start, had the bone bruise, missed some time, and it's been a slow process for Scoot. And then what's frustrating, he had that great stretch right before the All-Star break, and then he had the adductor strain, and now he's back on the floor, and he's not playing as well. Struggling. Showing flashes, but it hasn't been what I think we all thought it would be in year one under Scoot. I think part of that is what happens. We see this in the NFL draft all the time, where a quarterback or a certain player gets hyped to a point where they're drafted, and they have a lot of hype to live up to, and if they don't even come close to it, they're considered a bust. So I'm not worried about Scoot Henderson right now, but I do think that in terms of off seasons, it doesn't get much bigger than what we're going to find out this summer for Scoot. He has a lot of work to do. He needs to really work on his game and make sure that when camp arrives next year that he is ready to roll and he hits the ground running and can be injury-free and healthy and be able to play and play big minutes and show that major jump from year one to year two. And then we can all breathe a big sigh of relief and know that everything's going to be okay. But the problem is, I mean, you've got three guards right now, Ant, Scoot, Shaden. And you're trying to figure out what to do long-term with your backcourt and make decisions about the roster as you put this team in motion as you continue the rebuild. So what if Scoot gets off to another slow start? And then what if Scoot continues to have the same struggles next year that he does this year? Does it change the way you look at Anthony Simons? Does it change the way you look at Shaden Sharp? I mean, these are big questions. All I know is it would be easier for everyone involved if Scoot just went in, worked his tail off during the summer, and came in camp next year ready to roll. And then it went out and started dominating. And congratulations to Scott, who is the Laney Wilson ticket winner. Nice work, Scott. So, yeah, that's the scary part. Nice work, Scott. You're going to Laney Wilson, buddy.
Hey, what's up?
What's up, man? Nice work. A quick dial there.
Yeah? I'm just driving down the freeway, go work on the golf game.
Oh, dude, I went in. This is what I did today, Scott. Like, I am preparing for the end of Trailblazer season because
Don't call me Scott. This is weird.
Scotty.
Yes, thank you.
So, dude, I just went and spent. So last night, I went in last night. I decided to re-grip all my clubs and get. I'm going with the jumbo grip because I like the way it feels. So that cost me about $160. Then I went out today, and I like to buy all of my supplies so I have it ready to roll when I need it. So I bought a few gloves, I bought a bunch of balls, and I got a bunch of tees. So I'm fully ready with all supplies for when the season hits, man. I'm going to hit the ground running. I'm pumped.
Well, you've only got a couple more weeks.
I know. I can't wait.
A couple more weeks.
I'm jonesing, bro.
Dude, I've got a tee time Sunday morning, so.
Where are you going to be? Where are you playing Sunday?
Oregon City.
Nice. Very nice.
Bright and early, get done before the wife gets out of bed.
Well, let's meet up and play. I would much rather play with you at Heron or somewhere instead of running to you in the men's restroom in the morning at about 6 a.m.
I'm in.
All right.
I'm in.
There you go. That's my man, Scotty Bethune, right there. His last name is Bethune, not Buffoon. I did not call him Buffoon. All right. Trailblazer tickets coming up next. Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday. Your chance to win is next on the Rip City Drive. All right, what's going on? 5 o'clock Chad here. In the NFL, the owners agreed to change the kickoff rules. Kickers will still kick from their own 35-yard line and aim for a landing zone from the goal line up to the 20-yard line. Only the kickers and returners can move until the ball hits the ground or a player inside the landing zone. Teams also will get a third challenge after one successful challenge, and the league is prohibiting the hip drop tackle for player safety. 2 games will be scheduled on Christmas Day. The Trailblazers going to be back in action tomorrow as they continue this 7-game road trip. They're in Atlanta to meet the Hawks. Tip-off at 4:30. Game day will start at 3 here in your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. The Oregon State women will meet Notre Dame Friday at MVP Arena in Albany, New York. Tip-off set for 11:30. Pregame at 11 here in your home of the Beavs, 620 Rip City Radio. It's a Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday. We got Pelicans and Trailblazer tickets to give away next. We'll play Name That Tune. All right. Shacker's busting out a little Toto. I went down and saw the Toto Journey concert in Vegas a couple of weeks ago, weekend before last with my boy Steve. I did not know this until the concert when they announced it. But Joseph Williams, who is one of Toto's lead singers, he was at the concert performing. He was the man who sang Hakuna Matata in Lion King. Had no idea until the concert when they announced that. All right, we're going to play Name That Tune. Shacker thinks this is going to be an easy one. I think it's going to be a difficult one, but I really like this artist, so I chose the song. So we're going to play a clip. Here's how it's going to work. A clip of a song, and I need the title of the song and the artist. And the first person with the correct answer is going to get a pair of tickets for the Trailblazers and Pelicans coming up in April from Moda Center. Zion, you can go see C.J. McCollum, former Trailblazer. Name that tune. So it's very simple. I'm going to play a clip. First person correct answer, name and artist of the song. We'll get a pair of tickets for the Trailblazers and Pelicans. Your telephone number, if you need it, 503-248-0620. 503-248-0620. Oh, personal update. 2 things. I called the golf shop where I am getting my clubs regripped. Thankfully, they had my golf bag. So I was like, good. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'll see you later on tonight. Also, my daughter, Kaylee, 8th grader, she is playing in her very first softball game today. And apparently, she is batting 8th and playing 2nd. And her first time up, she walked in a run. So nice work, Kaylee. I think that's out of Mountain View High School in Vancouver. So golf bag is good. Kaylee is getting her first softball game time experience. I wish I could be there. The weather actually looks like it's holding up okay. I was a little concerned this morning it might be raining. All right, name that tune. 503-248-0620. First person with the correct answer, name an artist of this song. 503-248-0620. We'll see if Shacker's right. Will this be an easy one? 503-248-0620. Name that tune. First person with the correct answer. 503-248-0620. First person, correct answer, will get a pair of tickets for the Trailblazers and Pelicans. It's unbelievable. The phone's already lit up like a Christmas tree. Maybe it's not as hard as I thought. Or maybe just a bunch of you have the wrong answer. 503-248-0620. Call now. I'll play the clip one more time. See, I watched a video, an interview with the artist, and so I found out how the song was made, where it was written, and some of the sounds that were used to create the song. It's very unique. Very unique. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Shacker is hard at work. What do you think about this new kickoff rule in the NFL? You think it's dumb? Or is it going to make the game more exciting? I think there were 1,970 touchbacks last year. 1,970. Here is Albert Breer on Fox Sports Radio talking about the new kickoff rule. Take a listen. All right, there you go. Albert Breer. So I think it's either going to be really cool or a complete disaster. And they'll have 1 year this upcoming season to be able to test it. The problem is, I don't know, are they overthinking this? Why not just move the kickoffs back to the 25 and just have returns the way it always was? Well, the reason why is because they want to cut down on the collisions and improve player safety. But the reason why I think that's a bunch of poppycock is because if they cared about player safety, wouldn't they eliminate Thursday night football games or maybe add a second bye week for every team in the NFL? Like if they really cared about player safety, wouldn't they do that instead of playing Thursday night football and get an extra bye week in there? So instead of having kickoffs the way it should be or the way it's always been, they're doing this USFL trickery. I've got to see it before I know if it's going to suck or not, but my tendency is to believe it's going to be a disaster. I don't know. I just don't buy the whole player safety idea when it comes to the NFL. I love the NFL, and they're the most dominant sports league, but I'm a little bit suspicious when it comes to their idea of player safety. I mean, after all, they are the same league that tried to squelch and hide the real data when it came to head injuries because they didn't want people to know, because they don't want that information getting out and trickling down to moms who make the decisions in the households on what sports their kids are going to play. But they care about player safety. I don't believe that. All right, let's go out to the phones. I am going to start with the first caller who got through because I think that's fair, and that would be Adam. Adam, welcome to the Rip City Drive. Are you ready to play Name That Tune?
I am ready to play. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to play a clip for you. Take a listen to this. What is the name and artist of that tune?
The artist is Dolly Parton, and the name of the tune is either 9 to 5 or Working 9 to 5.
Well, let's check the tape and find out.
9 to 5, way to make a living. Great song, great movie.
She's so nice. Yeah, Dolly Parton is a national treasure.
Absolutely.
I got to tell you what, buddy, nice work. You are the winner, and that means you get a pair of tickets for the Pelicans and Trailblazers. Nice work. I thought that was going to be a hard one, but it's got a unique sound, the rhythm of that song.
Yeah, the intro. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah. All right, dude. You're set, man. Shacker's going to get your info when you're dialed in. Thanks for listening.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you. Have a good one.
There you go. Man, it was too easy. I thought for sure that was going to be tougher. So I saw an interview with Dolly. So, one, I love Dolly. She's awesome. She is a national treasure. I did get in trouble. I can't remember what grade it was, like first or second grade. I had a Dolly Parton sucker that had the, shall we say, figure with appropriate dimensions on the sucker that my parents had picked up, like in Silver Dollar City, I think, somewhere like that. And so I took it to school for like a little show and tell with my friends, and I got in trouble. They didn't think it was appropriate to have a Dolly Parton sucker at school. I was young. What do you want me to do? I thought it was cool, and so I was showing my friends. But I know for this song, 9 to 5, she wrote the song. She was in the movie, of course. She wrote the song on the set of the film, and she was using her, that little clacky clack here at the beginning. Dolly, for that click sound, she was using her fingernails. And the producer she was working with was concerned that the fingernails wouldn't quite get the job done. So I think they used a typewriter to get the rhythm and the sound. But she wrote it on the set of 9 to 5. So there you go. That's how that went down. Good song. Good movie, too. 503-248-0620. All right. Every Tuesday, so we'll have more tickets to give away next Tuesday, Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday here on the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. Yeah, so I don't know. With the new kickoff rule, I've got to see it before I can pass judgment, but it feels like it's going to be a disaster. And I never believe the NFL when they talk about player safety because half the things they do don't result in player safety. The hip drop tackle, I don't know how this is going to work out. From my understanding with the hip drop tackle, there's not going to be flags. Teams won't be penalized for the hip drop, but guys will get fined for it. And they'll use the fines to try and get to clean up the action and get that out of the league as well. The problem is with defenders now is like you can't do the hip drop tackle. If you go high and hit a dude in the dome, you're going to get penalized and fined. But players would prefer you hit them in the dome and go high than they would go low because when you go low, you're hitting the legs. You're taking out the ankles and knees and all of that. And from all the players I've talked to who played in the league, they consider their legs, their feet to be their base, the most important thing. And, of course, as you know, you probably heard the story, but Larry Fitzgerald, one of my favorite players of all time, was well known for going to defenders on the opposing team before games and saying, hey, you get fined. I'll pay the fine for you, but please hit me high. Hit me high and do not hit me low. He was trying to protect his base because he knew that in order to be able to have a long and fruitful NFL career, he couldn't afford a serious, ankle injury, like an ankle dislocation or get kneecapped or a major knee injury, something that would impact the base because you're never the same after that. So he would offer to pay guys fines if they would hit him high. So it's really bizarre. But we'll see. I'm going to wait and see it because it might be cool. I've seen some things, like the one thing I've wanted them to adopt from one of the other football leagues is, where you have instead of you could make your choice. If not an onside kick, you could have like a 4th down and 15, a chance to convert a 4th and 15 to get a fresh set of downs. I think that's kind of cool and would add some intrigue at the end of games when teams are trying to make their comeback. But now with the onside rules, you can't even get an onside kick anymore. All right, when we come back, we'll dive into Shohei Ohtani, and I'm going to play a clip. Brandon Lang joined me last week with what he said was information on Ohtani. I'll play that for you as well. You got the Rip City Drive. All right, Shohei Ohtani spoke through his new interpreter, Will Ireton, yesterday, and I want to work through a couple of these clips. And where do you come out on Shohei Ohtani? The whole situation is very bizarre because it started as one story that Shohei was helping to bail out his buddy who had rung up a big gambling debt to the tune of about $4.5 million with a bookmaker down in Southern California. And then all of a sudden the story changed and it became a case of fraud where his longtime friend and interpreter had accessed his bank accounts to pay off his own gambling debt and made a series of payments to this bookmaker down in SoCal at about $500,000 per payment. And this bookmaker got busted because he was being investigated by the feds and there was a raid. And through the investigation, Shohei's name popped up because his name was on multiple transactions, bank wires to this bookmaker down in SoCal. So the reason why, well, there's a couple of reasons why. Anytime there's a story and then all of a sudden the story changes, people clearly want to know why it changed all of a sudden. Why was it this and then it became this? And the other thing is, too, is that we're just used to people lying now, especially when it comes to big figures, big stars in sports. Lance Armstrong, take your pick. We're used to being lied to. And so we don't believe someone at face value anymore. And this one's hard to believe. How could an interpreter access Shohei's bank account and be able to do this without anyone knowing? Well, he had a chance to speak to an interpreter, and let's take a listen to a couple of these clips.
On a personal note, I'm very saddened and shocked that someone who I'm trusted has done this.
All right, so Shohei is shocked that the guy he trusted, his boy, stole $4.5 million to pay off his gambling debts.
So I never bet on baseball or any other sports, or never have asked somebody to do it on my behalf. And I have never went through a bookmaker to bet on sports.
All right, that's a big statement right there. Shohei saying he has never bet on baseball and that he's never bet on other sports. So not just baseball, but no sports. And he's never gone through a bookmaker. Okay. What else we got?
Up until a couple of days ago, I didn't know that this was happening. In conclusion, Ipe has been stealing money from my account and has told lies.
Wow. Stole money from my account and told lies.
And finally, when we went back to the hotel and talked one-to-one, that was when I found out that he had a massive debt. And it was revealed to me during that meeting that Ipe admitted that he was sending money using my account to the bookmaker.
All right. So Shohei denies any connection to the bookmaker, denies placing any bets, says he's never bet on sports, and clearly never bet on baseball. What I don't understand is why would Ohtani's team allow his interpreter to sit down for a 90-minute interview with an investigative reporter? And then he shares all this information. And then the reporter goes back to double check and cross check on some of the information they got from Ipe. And that's when the story changed. Well, Brandon Lang, who's no stranger to the world of sports gambling, he came on the show to talk about the NCAA tournament last week. And he brought this up. I didn't even ask him about Ohtani, and he transitioned into it. Take a listen.
And by the way, I'll break the story to you. It wasn't the interpreter. It was Ohtani. And every single Major League Baseball player is sitting back laughing going, you think we're buying the interpreter, bro? It was you, bro. It was you. And I have 100% factual evidence that my boy, one of my best friends, who's a member of a club in L.A., is playing golf with Bauer the bookie 3 months ago. Bauer the bookie, my boy said to him, who's your biggest client? Who's the guy that owes you the most money? And Bauer looks at him and says, Ohtani, $22 million.
Wow.
Mouth to God's ears. Mouth to God's ears. So when they raided his home, they got his phone. Went in his phone, saw the exchange, and literally said, what's this? And Bauer said, it's Ohtani. It's Otani. He gambles with my book, and he's down $22 million. And so they went to Otani's people and said, okay. And Otani people said, listen, you have no evidence whatsoever that he ever spoke to a bookie. He doesn't speak English, okay? It's his interpreter. His interpreter did it all, okay? You got nothing on him, nothing at all. Nothing to link him to the bookie that he placed a bet. It's the interpreter. The interpreter did it. He stole money. He did this. And the interpreter is the Lee Harvey Oswald. You know who's laughing the hardest right now? The League baseball players. They're sitting back going, are you serious? Are you serious? You want to believe this 5'4" interpreter who looks like he should be a chef at Benihana's stole this guy's money? By the way, you look at certain guys who are going to gamble $4 million. It ain't him. Does that guy really look like he's going to bet $4 million on sports?
No way. No way.
Never. In the history of mankind, never going to happen. So.
All right, let me ask you this. Do you think, because the real question is, do you think he got down on baseball? I mean, you've been around this for a long time. Your instincts, what does that tell you?
It was soccer. It was soccer and soccer only.
Okay.
That's another thing Bauer told my boy. It was soccer and soccer only.
How do you think the commissioner is going to handle this?
He's done. He's free and clear. The face of baseball is free and clear. The fall guy's the interpreter. Otani did nothing wrong. My golden child, who signed for $9 billion with the Dodgers, is free and clear. They can't charge him. They have no evidence that links him to the bookie. It's through the interpreter. So he stole everything from me. He had access to my accounts and he stole everything from me. That's like somebody saying I lost my ATM card and somebody took out $5,000 and I couldn't remember the code of my card, so I literally decided to write my code on the back so I can remember it.
All right, there you go. There's Brandon Lang. Now, he brought it up. He'd have no reason to lie about that. But it does help that Otani does not speak English and would not be able to communicate with a bookmaker to be able to get all that done, so you use an interpreter. And the interpreter can place bets, can run the action for you, handle all of the business, and then you have plausible deniability. It wasn't me. I didn't do it. That's the bookie. That's my interpreter. He was the one that was communicating with the bookie. I didn't do it. So there's something that just, I don't know, it just doesn't seem right in terms of how the story changed. I think the two most likely scenarios here is one of two things. Either one, Otani was, in fact, trying to help his interpreter by paying off his gambling debts. And he said, don't worry, buddy, I got you. I'll take care of you. And they put together these wire transfers to pay off the debts for his interpreter. And then when his team finds out this guy gets busted and is being investigated by the feds, the team's like, this is a problem. We need to separate you from the bookmaker and the interpreter. So they come up with the story to throw Ippei under the bus, to clear Otani's name so that there's no issues moving forward because he's the cash cow. So that's a possibility. The other possibility is that exactly what Brandon Lang said, that Otani was the one who wanted the action, and he was the one that was authorizing the amounts and the bets and what to bet on, and it was the interpreter who was handling the transactions for him, contacting the bookie, making a connection with the bookie. I believe they met at a poker table down in San Diego. That's how they first crossed paths, the interpreter and the bookmaker. And so Otani's looking for action. He doesn't want people to know that he's getting down on a variety of different things. So you utilize a bookmaker in SoCal so that you can do it low profile and have someone else do it for you. That way he gets his action in and you proceed from there. And then when the story broke, they came up with the decision to throw him under the bus, essentially. So I don't know. And the one thing I think is least likely is this interpreter racking up a big debt and then being able to pull that off, access the accounts, move that type of money and not be noticed until the last moment. until this guy gets investigated by the feds. Like, I find that hard to believe. In fact, I would say I doubt that that's how it went down. Now, I don't have an issue with what Otani did as long as he's not betting on baseball. I know a lot of people are trying to compare this to the Pete Rose situations, but it's not. If he's not betting on baseball and he's just, trying to get some action in with this bookie, the feds are not after Otani. They want the bookmaker. So I don't have an issue with Otani wanting to get down as long as he wasn't betting on baseball, because that impacts the fabric of the game. You don't want players who are involved in games betting on the league that they play in or games they're involved in. That's not good. You don't want that associated with your game. It's not good for business, because as soon as a fan thinks that what they see is not legit, that impacts the integrity of the game. You mess with the fabric of the game. So, and frankly, I got to be honest with you, I want to see Otani play with the Dodgers, so I don't want him to be in the crosshairs. But baseball's in a good spot now, because what do they care about the most? Well, making sure that Otani's available to play, because he means a lot to the game of baseball, one of the most popular athletes on the entire planet. They need him in a Dodger uniform playing baseball. So he can't speak English. It's all the interpreter's fault. He did everything. They throw him under the bus and they move on. But I do think that the most least likely scenario in my mind is that Ipe concocted this entire scheme on his own and was stealing money out from underneath Otani, and he had no idea. Like, I don't. The problem is you get a little bit older, and then you start to see corruption and lies and the way people do it, and you start to doubt everything. It's like, yeah, I don't buy that. So, no, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. Also, did you see this scary story? Oh, my gosh. I don't know. I think it was like 12:30 last night. I was, preparing for bed, and I was just flipping through my phone, and I saw the video of what happened in Baltimore. One of the scariest things I've ever seen. A massive container ship adrift at 9 miles per hour issued a mayday early Tuesday as it headed toward the iconic Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore, losing power before colliding with one of the support columns. As the vessel struck the bridge in the middle of the night, it caused a din that could be heard ashore and immediately toppled an essential mid-Atlantic thoroughfare into the frigid waters. Several cars were knocked into the Patapsco River, and authorities immediately began searching for members of a construction crew from the Bronner builders who were repairing potholes on the bridge. Authorities said 2 people were rescued, only one who was briefly hospitalized and another who declined to go to the hospital. 6 workers were presumed dead Tuesday evening, according to Jeffrey Pritzker, the executive vice president of Bronner Builders. Quote, "It's a terrible, terrible, unforeseen tragedy. None of us could have imagined this could happen. We're all kind of shocked and distressed." Yeah, I could say so. I was distressed watching it, because the only thing that went to my mind is, my God, I hope that no one's on that bridge watching it tumble down like that. And here in Portland, you know how it is. We have a bunch of bridges throughout the city, and I travel to and from work basically every day. So I'm traveling over the bridges, the Fremont. I've driven over all of them, the Steel Bridge, Fremont, the Markham, Selwood. I mean, how often do you go over a bridge where you think, man, what would happen if this thing went down? The I-5 bridge, which is, if we ever had the earthquake, that thing's the first to go in the water. But I've always wondered that. I can't believe it went down. That boat struck it, and then boom. Gosh, it's crazy. Before the collision, the ship's crew notified authorities that the vessel had lost power. That mayday allowed Maryland Transportation Authority police on the highway above to prevent many cars from driving onto the bridge just before the catastrophe. Crazy. Scary, scary. Scary, scary. But yeah, I have weird thoughts that go through my mind. Usually when I'm on a plane, I'm worried about it going down. And every time I drive over a bridge, I'm worried about that kind of catastrophe taking place. But man, that boat was huge. It's a big boat. Can you imagine the force? Good gracious. The other bridge, there are a couple other bridges that are freaky too, like the one up in Longview. that you take over to get to Highway 30 if you're rolling up to Astoria. And then the bridge in Astoria is a creepy one. There's a lot of creepy big bridges around. But those two come to mind. Oh, my goodness. Horrible. Absolutely horrible. That's one of those videos that you see, and I was looking at it, I'm like, is this real? And I did cross-checked multiple media reports, and I was like, man, that's real. Scary. Absolutely scary. I've never been to Baltimore. My dad's been to Baltimore, through work. He went several times. I called him to see if he was familiar with the bridge. He was not. All right, Rip City Drive. Tomorrow, the Trailblazers are going to play the Atlanta Hawks. Tip-off's at 4:30. Game day will launch at 2. Chris Burkhart will host. I'll be on the Trailblazers Radio Network. So Chris will have game day starting at 2, and I'll have the pregame show on the Trailblazers Radio Network at 3:30. Tip-off will be at 4:30. You can always podcast the show on the iHeartRadio app or go to our website, ripcityradio.com. Sean Hyken joined me on the show today, and we walked through some of the different situations with the team right now. He agreed that this is a huge offseason for Scoot Henderson to work on his game and really do everything he can to make that big jump from year 1 to year 2. He said the team is ramping up Shaden Sharp, and there's a good chance he could play in that final home stretch before the end of the season, because it would be nice to get him on the floor to get some run before the end of the season, because he's been out a significant period of time with the core surgery. He also said that Malcolm Brogdon is being ramped up, and they would like to get him back on the floor with that elbow situation. He had the tendonitis, had a PRP injection, but the thinking there, according to Sean, is that they would like to get Malcolm on the floor and play to show that that elbow's okay, because if he's one of the players that will be moved during the summertime, and I certainly think he will be, and most people do, because he's going to have 1 year left on his contract, that you want to show that he's fine and will be okay. And then teams can come and make a play on Malcolm during the course of the offseason. And then, we'll see how things shake out. But the Blazers season is winding down. But right now it's all about player development. I agree with Sean. I was impressed with the way the 5 rookies played against Denver and last night against Houston. They just ran out of gas. I think they put up like 41 points in the second half last night. They just didn't have enough talent in terms of, shot making or scoring. But the guys are competing well. They're executing to the best of their abilities the way the coach wants them to. So I think they're making progress. Tamani Kamara is making some serious progress right now with his offensive game. Shooting with more confidence, a better playmaker now, and he's putting the ball on the floor and showing some willingness to attack the rim. So I've been impressed with Tamani. But, I just want Scoot out there on the floor getting as much playing time as possible. He did say of the guys who are banged up right now that it wouldn't surprise him if Anthony Simons does not play the rest of the year. One, just to keep him safe, but also to clear a pathway for Scoot to get as much run as possible before the end of the year. All right, we'll come back with high fives. Chad Doing, Michael Shacker with you. I'll be back in tomorrow morning early, 6 a.m. for Rip City Mornings. Justin Myers is out, so Burkhart and I will be filling in for him until he's back from vacation. Welcome to the iHeart Spotlight, the go-to place in the iHeart app that keeps you up to date with the latest music, podcasts, and more. Just open the iHeart app and explore a collection of content you can't get anywhere else, like new music for you or the exclusive NFL podcast slate, all within the free iHeart Radio app. Listen now. All right, Shacker. I'll let you jump in the mix here if you would like. You got any high fives you want to hand out?
High five to the Orlando Magic because they have an awesome podcast. So awesome, they want you to do the live reads for it.
Yeah, I don't understand this at all. And it's pretty annoying. But here with the job, we have different reads that we're supposed to do throughout the course of the day. And I did this read today. I was like, wait, what? It's got to be a mistake. And Shacker has been known to set me up to read things that are ridiculous because he thinks it's funny. And he wants me to do it and then get irritated about it. So it has to be on air and everything. And I read this one today. Take a listen. Whether you're a diehard fan or just getting into the game, Orlando Magic Pod Squad is your go-to source for all things Orlando Magic. Join insiders David Steele, Jeff Turner, Dante Marchitelli, George Galante, and Jake Chapman as they bring you the latest updates, exclusive interviews straight from the heart of Magic territory. From in-depth discussions with current and former players to exclusive interviews with coaches and front office personnel, they've got you covered. Stay ahead of the game with Orlando Magic Pod Squad weekly on the iHeartRadio app. There you go. The Orlando Magic Pod Squad. So why on earth, it's funny because why not have me send over a Rip City Drive promo to have them read in Orlando? That's how ridiculous that is.
I almost think it was a trick to see, just to make sure you're doing the promos. They want me to send an email. Hey, why are you making us do this?
I know.
I think they're just playing a joke on us.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's funny. Every job has got details or duties that no one likes to do. And there are certain reads where you're like, well, why am I going to read something about the Orlando Magic and promote their pod here in the Northwest? No one cares, do they? It's annoying.
I couldn't come up with this. I mean, that was just in the list of things for you to read. Didn't seem accurate.
I know. So we just decided to drop that idea. But yeah, every job's got certain details or duties where you're like, I don't want to do that. That would be one of those. Some of the reads make sense, but that's very regionally specific, the Orlando Magic Pod Squad. So there you go. I guess if you're down with the Orlando Magic, my guess is there's not one Orlando Magic fan in the Northwest, here in the Portland area. You might watch their games sometimes. You might like Paolo Banchero, but Magic fans? Are there even that many Magic fans around? There probably are because Shaq, Penny, Dwight Howard, there were some big stars, and they've had some success. They've been to a couple of finals. They have not won a championship, but they've had success. They've been to two? They went once with Shaq, and I believe they went once with Dwight Howard. I think that's the only two times. And then they lost both. The first one was to Houston when the Rockets swept them. That was when Clyde won a championship. And then the next time around was Kobe when he won his first title without Shaquille when they beat the Magic in the finals, I think in like 5 games. So there you go. But that's funny to me. So high five to the Orlando Magic for somehow slipping in a read about the Pod Squad. All right, 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. 503-248-0620. A lot of people texted me directly about Shohei Ohtani. I mean, there is a guy. The problem is when it comes to the internet, or especially Twitter, it's hard to know what's real. There is a guy who's been going through a thread. He's Timmy_smokes on Twitter, but he's got a list of bets that were placed on baseball games, some of them involving Ohtani. So I don't know if there's a connection there or not, but I don't know. It's just the whole Ohtani situation stinks to high heaven. Stinks to high heaven. The one thing I do know about gamblers, if you're a gambling addict, and you've got a problem, you'll bet on anything, even if it's a risky situation. That's the problem. So I don't know. I don't know how this is going to shake out, but it would appear that the interpreter is the perfect fall guy because he can take the fall, Ohtani can be in the clear, and the Major League Baseball can avoid a disaster. That's probably how it's going to go down. Tomorrow morning, when I'm hosting Rip City Mornings, we're going to be joined by Keith Smith. He is terrific, covers the NBA. I want to get his thoughts on the upcoming postseason. I'm salivating at the idea of some of these matchups. Boston right now, 10.5 games out in front in the Eastern Conference. Milwaukee's number 2. I really want Boston and Milwaukee to match up in the East Finals. In the West right now, Denver has the top spot. They're 1 game in front of Oklahoma City, a game and a half in front of Minnesota. And those are your 1, 2, 3 teams. And there's a big drop off from 3 to 4. New Orleans is all the way up to 4th in the West. And right now would host the LA Clippers in round 1. New Orleans 44-27, 6.5 games back. Clippers 6.5 games back, same record as the Pelicans. Sacramento 8.5 back, they're in 6th. And the rest of the teams, Dallas, they're evened up with Sac in 7th, Phoenix in 8th, Lakers in 9th, Warriors in 10th. And the Warriors have been struggling of late, just a half game in front now of Houston. And I guess if you're a Blazer fan, you would like to see the Warriors miss the playoffs to increase their lottery position and to hopefully give the Trailblazers a better pick. Because the Trailblazers need as much ammunition as possible. And having that Warriors pick be as good as possible would be nice. So we'll see. But it's still clear to me. Denver is the best team in the West. Boston or Milwaukee in the East. And I guess what I'm hoping for would be Denver and Milwaukee. Because I would like to see Dame in the NBA Finals to see how he and Giannis could do against a team like Denver. I like Oklahoma City and what they've done this year. I don't think they're going to be good enough come postseason time to be able to get over the hump and beat Denver. But I feel the same way about everyone else. I think the Clippers are really good, but they won't be able to match up with Denver. So barring injury, Denver's going to get to the finals. There's no question. They've won 4 straight. Right now, Houston is one of the hottest teams in the NBA. They've won 9 straight. And the Celtics were on fire until their recent loss to the Hawks. I think that was last night. They had a big lead and then dropped it. But Houston's won 9 straight, hottest team in the NBA. So we'll see. Denver's won 4 straight. Dallas has won 4 straight. And the Lakers have won 3 straight. But I think they're taking on Milwaukee right now, getting pounded in that first half. The second half is just underway. Bucks are on top by 13, 58-45. That game is on TNT. So there you go. Sweet 16 will kick off on Thursday. And I think the first game is Arizona-Clemson. And then the Elite Eight over the weekend on Saturday and Sunday. Let's go out to the phones. My man Mitch in New Jersey is there. Mitch, it's great to have you back on the show. What's cracking?
What's popping, Chad? How you doing?
Very well. How are you?
Feeling me as well. Good, though. A little tough time now with my mom down in Virginia. I'm going to be going down 95, so I got to get extra traffic for that disaster. I didn't know that the ship had called in the police, saved some lives there.
That's terrible.
But, it's really, I don't think Otani had anything to do with it. You have all that money. You don't have to gamble, right? And how about with this guy, Johnny Porter, Michael Porter's brother?
Yeah.
I guess he's not going to be playing basketball anymore.
No. So who do you like? Who do you think's the best team? Who do you think's likely going to win the championship this year?
My Clippers. I like that. and I know Poland, he'd be a good player, but they don't need Collier from USC or Bronny. Collier's going to be good, but you got 3 good guards right there.
Yeah, the Blazers are well stocked on guards. Yeah. Yeah, the Blazers are well stocked on guards, my friend, and I